Hey, welcome to another episode of Dr. Nick's WellPad Chronicles. So, I'll be kind of breaking down really simple anatomy and physiology concepts for you to understand. I'm an educator at heart, so of course, it's super important for me to help others understand what's happening in their body because guess what? We all have a body, right? So, today, we are going to be discussing the 411 on dehydration. Like, what's the 411, hun? Right? So, dehydration is something that I think we can all identify with, whether you've been dehydrated in the past, you might be dehydrated right now. But it's essential to know what it is, know how it impacts the body, know how you get there, so that you can address it and live better, right? So, dehydration, first thing we want to know is water, or we need to know is that water, and H2O is the chemical formula for water, but water is essential for human life. And I'll write water here just so we are reminded of what this means, right? So, water accounts for 50 to 70% of our body weight, right? And it's crucial, absolutely crucial for most bodily functions. And any deficit in normal body water, whether it's through dehydration, what we're going to talk about today, or through sickness or exercise or heat stress or any of those, can make us feel absolutely puny, rotten, right? Of course, it starts with thirsty, and then you're fatigued and you're tired. You might develop a headache. Then you just get just grumpy, and it can lead to this physical and mental downward spiral that none of us want to ever be in. So let's look at the ways that we lose water, right? Because most times people just think, oh, you just go to the bathroom, right? But there are other ways in which we lose water. And we'll talk about the four primary ways, right? So the first way is going to be our breath. Yes, our breath. So I want you to think back if you wear spectacles like I do, when they're dirty, if you aren't near your handy dandy like wipes and spray, sometimes we can breathe on the lenses and then you clean them off with a cloth, right? And it's that moisture that's doing the cleaning. It's not just because we just want to breathe on our lenses, right? It's the moisture in our breath that's doing the cleaning. So we lose water via our breath. And guess what? We breathe all the time, right? And then we also lose water from urine. We go to the potty, we tinkle in the potty, right? I talked about this on one of my wellness minutes because I'm in potty training with my little one, or at least starting the process. So we lose water, obviously, through urination. Likewise, we lose water through our feces. And so, even though it is a solid, most times, ideally, there is moisture in there. When there isn't, though, that's when we tend to experience the uncomfortable feeling of constipation, right? And then the last way that we lose water is through our skin. Okay, and this is happening all the time. So, kind of like our breath, we lose water through our skin. And I've had people say to me, Doc, I don't sweat. Well, you do sweat. You just maybe lose water in really finite amounts at a time. So, you don't feel that dewiness or that wet or stickiness or moisture on the top of your skin, but everyone loses moisture through their skin as part of our body's cooling system. Okay, so via breath, urine, feces, and skin. And most people are, most healthy people are pretty sufficient at regulating the body's water level, right? Via eating and drinking. And we use kind of how hungry we are, how thirsty we are to guide that journey. But it tends to be more difficult in infants because they're relying on someone else and their bodies are tiny and their bodies kind of still learning to work and learn the environment. The sick, elderly athletes are huge. Why? Because they're always exerting themselves, and oftentimes they're in a warmer climate, or upon the exertion, they're causing their body temperature to rise, and that's going to induce that temperature regulation. And so athletes and those with strenuous physical occupations that are working in the heat, like construction workers, I always, if I'm driving on the road, I always think, oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine because, it's 90 degrees out there on that pavement. And oftentimes these construction workers, they're working on the highways. And so that's also the reason why oftentimes they do construction at night too, when the sun goes down in those warmer climates. So nonetheless, this these are ways in which we lose water. So here's the question. What happens when you dehydrate, right? So we talked about a lag before when we talked about appetite a couple episodes ago, but there is a lag in our body. So by the time you feel thirsty, you are already dehydrated. Okay. So check this out. Research shows that as little as 1%, y'all, 1% dehydration negatively affects your mood, your attention, your memory, and your motor coordination. 1% negatively affects your mood, your attention, your memory, and motor coordination. Yo, that's everything. That's who you are and what you do every day, right? That's everything we do. And so dehydration plays a huge role in how you show up every day. Now, what actually happens when we lose body water without replacing it? Now, mind you, when I say lose body water without replacing it, that means exactly what I said. So, if you are drinking things that induce or cause you to lose your body water, like coffee, tea, and it's a diuretic, so it's going to cause you to lose body water without replacing it with water, then we're going to have consequences. Right? And so when we lose body water, our blood becomes more concentrated. So what that looks like, if we have our regular stream of blood moving as fast as it does there, that's with adequate hydration. However, when our blood becomes more concentrated, then our bloodstream moves a little more like this. The more concentrated that blood, the slower the blood is going to flow. And as a result, this is going to trigger our kidneys to retain water. So think of that slow blood flow. It's kind of like sludge. If you've ever given blood before, the blood rushes into the tube. And then if you're dehydrated, it doesn't really rush. It trickles, right? So at any point, this triggers our kidneys to retain water, thus you urinate less often. Oh, but that's not where it ends though, because the thicker and more concentrated your blood becomes, the harder it is for your cardiovascular system to compensate. So what happens? Because of that sludge, your heart has to work harder. So it's going to increase that heart rate to try to maintain your blood pressure. And when that already dehydrated body is pushed, i.e., you don't have enough water on board and you go exercise or you spend a day in the sun, then you risk exhaustion, you risk collapse, fainting, because your cardiovascular system is trying hard to do a whole lot with a whole lot less than what it requires. So it's important to know that less water impacts us in many ways. It's not just what comes out in the toilet, it's how your cardiovascular system works. And it plays a role in how well our body regulates temperature. So again, if we're in these high temperature environments and we don't have enough water on board, then the body's natural cooling system can't kick in, and thus we get overheated, and we're at risk for heat exhaustion, heat stroke even. So dehydration, unfortunately, is really common, but it's a very, very important issue for us to address when it comes to being healthy. So, of course, the next question is, Doc, so how can I not find myself dehydrated? Well, that part is simple. You can be conscious of your fluid intake. That's super important. being aware of how much you've had to drink, how much coffee you've had to drink versus water or things that are replenishing your deficits in fluid. And then number 2, check your urine. It's okay, it's yours. You can love it. But you should be urinating at least 3 to 4 times a day and looking for that light yellow, or what we call like straw, like hay and straw, like straw colored urine without a strong odor. And of course, the basic thing is just drink up. Grab a cup, put a straw in it, and sip, sip, sip all day. All right, so I hope you've learned something today about dehydration. As we go into the weekend, make sure that you are hydrating appropriately so that you can be safe and healthy. And I will see you next week. Love and blessings. Talk to you soon. Toodles.